So we're going to dive into three stories from India that on the surface seem totally unrelated. We're talking vultures, courtroom drama, and the deep, deep ocean. But stick with me, because when you put them together, you get this incredible picture of the massive choices a nation has to make to really shape its own future.
Yeah, I know. It sounds a bit like a riddle, right? How did those three things connect? But that's the real question we're tackling here. Because each one, nature, law, science, is a window into a country's soul, showing us what it values, what its priorities are, and where it's headed.
Okay, let's kick things off in the natural world. This first story is all about trying to fix a mistake from the past. And trust me, it's about way more than just saving one type of bird. We're talking about trying to get an entire ecosystem back on its feet.
So the big idea? Something called vulture safe zones, or VSZs for short. The best way to think about them is like a sanctuary, a protected oasis. They're basically designated drug-free zones where these incredibly important birds can finally find clean food and, hopefully, start to make a comeback.
You know, the crazy part is the problem was caused by something so simple, a single veterinary drug, diclofenac, given to cattle. But it had this absolutely devastating effect. Vultures are nature's cleanup crew, right? They're crucial for keeping diseases in check. Losing them was a total ecological disaster. So these vulture safe zones, they're the direct, laser-focused solution to that problem.
And look, this isn't just some idea on a whiteboard. It's actually happening. The very first of these zones in the state of Tamil Nadu is being set up in the Moyar River Valley. This is what makes it real. It's happening in a specific place where you can actually see and measure the change.
Just a quick heads up, by the way.
All these stories we're covering, the vultures and the other topics we're about to get into, they're all based on content from UPS Crux, which gives a really cool sneak peek into the big policy debates that are shaping India's path to 2026.
All right, so let's switch gears. We're moving from the wild outdoors right into the courtroom. This next story isn't about ecological balance at all. Instead, it's about a really profound and personal question. What does it truly mean to have dignity when you're facing the end of your life?
Okay, so in India, the law draws a really important line in the sand. You have active euthanasia. That's when a doctor directly administers something to end a life. That's illegal. But then you have passive euthanasia. This is when life support is withdrawn, allowing death to happen naturally. And that is legal. It really boils down to the difference between causing death and allowing death.
And you know, this hasn't been the law for very long. The big turning point was in 2018. The Supreme Court made a huge ruling in what's known as the Common Cause case. Not only did this make passive euthanasia legal, but it also brought in the concept of a living will, which is a game changer, because it lets people decide their wishes ahead of time.
And the thinking behind this ruling is just so powerful. The Supreme Court didn't just invent a new rule, they actually connected the right to die with dignity to the Constitution's fundamental right to life. It basically redefined what a dignified life means, saying it has to include a dignified end too.
Think about something like quadriplegia. For someone with permanent paralysis, with no real hope of getting better, this legal framework creates a clear path for their wishes to be respected. It takes what could be a very painful debate and turns it into a question of fundamental human rights.
So, we've talked about fixing the past with the vultures and defining the present with the law. Now, let's look forward. Let's talk about building the future. Our last story is all about ambition, and it's centered on the incredible potential of biotechnology.
India is really pushing the envelope on two amazing frontiers here. First up is marine biotech, basically diving into the ocean's biodiversity to find new drugs, new foods, new materials. And then, get this, there's space biotech. This is all about using the one-of-a-kind conditions in space, like microgravity, to do biological research you just can't do down here on Earth.
Now, to really get a grip on how huge this opportunity is, you gotta look at the numbers. We're talking about a massive 7,500-kilometer coastline. That's not just a pretty beach, it's a gateway to an entire world of resources. It gives the country access to
a mind-boggling 2.2 million square kilometers of ocean that's its exclusive economic zone. That is a gigantic marine territory, just packed with potential for new discoveries and sustainable growth.
But here's the twist, the paradox. Even though India is sitting on this biological gold mine, it's actually a top importer of key marine products. So there's this huge gap, right, between the potential it has and its current ability to actually use it.
So how do you close that gap? Well, there are some big national plans in the works. Things like the Blue Economy Policy, the Deep Ocean Mission, and the BioE3 program.
These are all designed to be this big, coordinated push to finally unlock all that potential.
But hey, having resources and plans isn't the whole story. The biggest hurdle, the biggest risk they've identified, it's that the research and development pipeline is just too slow and broken up. For this to really work, they've got to bring it all together, get everyone on the same page, and turn all that ambition into actual results.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. Vultures, legal rights, deep-sea science. How do they connect? Well, we've looked at three completely different challenges, right? But what they really are three parts of the exact same balancing act that a nation has to perform.
So you've got nature, where the problem of a collapsing ecosystem is being met with vulture-safe zones. You've got law, where the deep question of human dignity is being answered with passive euthanasia. And in science, the problem of finding new resources is being tackled by the Deep Ocean Mission. See? Each one is a deliberate, proactive choice.
And when you step back, these stories point to a bigger truth. A nation can't just pick one. It has to do all three things at the same time. You have to fix the mistakes of the past, figure out what you stand for in the present, and build a smart plan for the future. The real trick, the real art, is learning how to balance it all.